This introduction to DesignSpark PCB covers the creation of a simple schematic ready for the layout of a printed circuit board. We will also introduce the libraries and design technology file. We start with a suggested method for organising your design files. From the menu bar, select File, New, and select the Project option. A file window option opens to select the project file name and destination folder. First select or create a folder for your designs, and then create a folder for the project. This will then be used for all your design and manufacturing files. Within this folder, you can now name and create the project file. The Project File tab now appears in the editor window. We now add the new schematic design to the project. Select File, New, and check the Schematic Design button. Ensure the Use Technology File box is ticked, and you can select between a white or black background. Technology files contain a set of default settings to make the schematic sheet ready to use. However, you do not need to be concerned by these for a first project. Just use a supplied default, and we suggest the default white is used. Also, check that Add to Open Project is ticked. You can now name the schematic sheet as required. It can be the same as the project name or anything you wish. Returning to the DesignSpark PCB program, a new tab with the schematic sheet is present. Examining the Project tab, you will now see the schematic sheet has been added. We will now show how to create a simple schematic as sketched on the right. Select the schematic sheet, unpin any of the sidebar tools, and you are ready to add the components. First, you should check your libraries. On opening the Library Manager, a message box pops up explaining the built-in libraries. These are not enabled by default for the reason that there are so many. The more libraries you enable, the longer it takes to search the libraries, and many users prefer to download or create and customize their own component libraries. Looking at the Folders tab, we have two libraries enabled, shown in bold, Default and User. Looking at the Components tab, these are what you can use. Do not use any LT-SPICE or X-SPICE components in your design, as these are schematic only, i.e. do not have a PCB footprint and are used for circuit analysis. The user library is where your created components can be saved, so it is empty at present. Back to the Folders tab, select the LT-SPICE and X-SPICE files of type .cml and uncheck the Enable tick box. This will prevent you accidentally adding these to your design. Now let's enable the built-in libraries as mentioned in the pop-up message for this simple example design. Click the folder Library and tick the Enable checkbox. The list of files or libraries, each containing many components displayed in the lower window, is considerably expanded. Now on the Components tab, the list of components is large. Select a library and explore. With the preview box checked, you can view the schematic and footprint symbols. At our schematic sheet, we can now add component using Add Component from the Tools toolbar. As there are so many components now available, use Find to locate possible components. Using the Contained search option can be useful if you do not know the specific component name. If you receive too many hits, then refine your search. Here we have located the 555 from the Hybrid library, which appears ideal. Click Add and position the highlighted symbol where you wish. You now have the option to place a further component. Press Escape to exit. We now add a second component, but note the process has delays due to scanning and background tasks. This can be improved going to the Library Manager Folders tab and deselecting libraries that you will not require. They can be reselected later. Now we look for resistors. As mentioned, manual searches can take time, so again we use Find to locate a 1/4 watt 100k ohm resistor of through-hole type and add to our design. The orientation isn't as required, so use the shortcut key R to rotate as required and click to position. Repeat until all the components are added. Another useful library is the Pickaxe Create library. Enable this for the axial capacitors and LEDs for some generic parts. Capacitors and LEDs do not have their own supplied libraries, as there are far too many variants, so use the Pickaxe Create library in this instance. Once you become familiar with DesignSpark PCB, you can use the online library resource. We now have all the components loaded and ready to route. Some components have long part numbers, etc. So let's now tidy up the text before placing the nets. Here we illustrate how to just display the resistance value for R2. Click on the component, not just the text, to highlight and show that it is selected, then right-click and select Properties. Select the Values tab, click the Add button, and we can add a value. In this case, I name it Value for the value of the resistance and give it a value of 470k ohms. Tick the checkbox to display this new value. Next, go to the Component tab and remove the checks against anything you do not wish to be displayed for this component. Click Apply and then OK, and the schematic is updated. Use the function key F5 to refresh the screen, and we now have the component displayed as we chose. Repeat for the other components as required. For the capacitor C1, we add a value of 1 microfarad. And deselect the component name and the package. Position the text as required. As we have the text positive and negative displayed, along with the plus polarity sign, I decided I do not want the text displayed, so here I uncheck the pin names. With the components as required, I select Save to ensure my work is saved at this point. However, it is worth saving frequently to minimize any potential of lost work. Now, to wire up the nets, click the X on the component and drag away to draw the net. Click to fix the position at any point and click on the X to connect a destination pin or onto another net. Using the mouse over or highlighting a segment of a net, the net name is displayed. The default names are N followed by 4 digits. These can be changed to a meaningful name. Right-click and select Change Net. Select the net to change, and here we type V+. The net name can be displayed. Select the net, right-click and select Display Net Name. Position the net name as required. Repeat for any other nets that you wish to rename. When your schematic is completed, ensure that you save the schematic design, and we are now ready for routing.